And we should be live. Sorry for the wait. Unless you didn't wait, maybe you saw this like 5 hours from when it's live, and then you're like, what is he even talking about? But I'm here with Made by JimBob, guys, who not only is an artist, but now he has his own theme song thanks to Trevor Wesley and a little bit of me, but mostly Trevor. JimBob, thanks for being here.
Hey man, thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. While people are coming in, I gotta turn off the sound first. I'll play the song. So Trevor, the story behind the song, it came out yesterday. Trevor hit me up and he's like, dude, I made a song for JimBob. And I've already seen JimBob's art. I've been sharing it. And I was like, Trevor, this is so fire. And like the beat was crazy. So I was like, yeah, I'll throw some bars. And I was like, all right, I guess we got to do the whole thing now. How do you feel about Made by JimBob, the banger?
I love it. I love it. Trevor, I've known him since I had a store in like North Hollywood, and he's in that area, and I would always bug him and see him playing the piano at the coffee shop next door. So I always had this like vague connection with him. But only after I moved to Colorado and I started seeing some more of his content that I realized that we were like, compatible creators.
They only love you when they're gone. That's what they say. He waited till you left to make a song. When you were there, no songs.
Yeah, totally.
All right, we'll play it as people are getting in, then we'll get into the culture. I only got it on my phone. It'll do. So you guys can. Got a friend, you may know his name. He paints pictures, and lately they're beginning to trend. So politically incorrect. That's why we love them to death. Another pal named Anomaly knows the same guy from the memes posted on IG. A collaboration was revealed to me, so maybe we can help him get the people to see. Made by JimBob. Did you ever think you were gonna make political art that was gonna somehow turn into a rap pop song?
No.
That is never in the plans.
No, not at all. Or like animated, or my little daughter singing this is hilarious.
There it is. Here's my favorite part. I'm biased though. Trevor hit me with the track, told me give it a little rap, so I got a pencil and a pad, so naturally, I make an illustration like JimBob with the improv, no limbs lost, in the meme more, just an anomaly JimBob in free form. Hey, what you looking at me for? Liberal left, what you being mean for? I'm so cool, calm and collected. It's so true, gospel detected. You claim the U.S. a fascist regime, but then you want to take the guns from the street. Y'all need hook on phonics, lead like Hugo Chavez. Y'all are broken godless. I'm a win regardless. We the best, and I don't need to check with college. All right, guys, we're live with Made by JimBob, and we have an official anthem. It's absolutely.
I love how you put it. The most unnecessary song ever.
Because it was like he sent it to me. Not that you're not worth it, obviously.
No, it's just that's what it is, though. You know what it is? It's like when artists and creators, they like percolate ideas. And you just do a little it's like almost like a test run, like, yeah, smash these things together and see what we can create for no reason at all other than that we can. You know what I mean?
Well, I think your art inspired Trevor, and he's a good guy. And he was like, I want to make a song. And he literally talks about it. It's just like a story of that. And Trevor's so good that it's just such a banger. I was like, dude, this beat is sick. The hook is sick. Like, he was like, maybe it could turn into something where people, like a dancing queen. Not everyone's a dancing queen, but they pretend like they are. So maybe one day everyone will be JimBobs, and it'll be in France. They'll be like, yeah, Jim. Or that's not a good French impression, but it's like JimBob is so tight, like in Europe.
Yeah, it's pretty flattering, slightly embarrassing, but no, I think Trevor is a very underutilized creator. He's just so versatile, and he just wants to create so much. So he's just like seeing like who else he vibes with. And I think that we're just like in the beginning of a massive creative explosion. I mean, it's happening. It's just that it's just all about creating. Like, you just keep creating, and you can't battle creators because we keep creating. You know what I mean? So it's fun to be a part of that. And it's better. I think it's ideal when it has like purpose, and there's clarity, and it's about something specific. but the practice up to that point is really fun too.
Yeah, I was thinking even before I was interested in politics, it was the real music that really struck me. Everyone can create, everyone can make rap music, but the one that always hit home was the real message. And now it's so watered down where you could say it's real, but it'll be like pills and murder. It was the track about society that always caught my attention.
Yeah,
Where now as creators, I think a lot of people, we all are like shocked at how ridiculous it's becoming. It's like a 1984 novel, but we do have to remember, I think, to create and join the meme war per se.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's easy to also go down the road of like, oh, it's a terrible time for comedy. It's a terrible time for art or music or rap, and it's actually the best time, because the demand for truth and honesty, wholesomeness, even in some cases, it's so there. The demand is there, and the supply is low. So anyone who's actually pushing something that's not the pills, the drugs, the women, like all of that very cliche stuff, it's like it's a perfect time to emerge as like yourself. Like anyone who's saying something differently or truthfully, it doesn't matter if they're even right or wrong. It's just like people are dying for authenticity.
It's so true. When I first saw your pictures, I don't know your exact trajectory because I only found out about them a few months ago, but they were so dope. I wanted to share them immediately. Like you could have hit me up, like Brandon from Walkaway. He hit me up and it was really dope. And I was like, this is great. This needs to be shared. I found but it was really dope. So that's, I think, the first step a lot of people miss is don't just make something great. And especially now, like you said, if it's in the right category, no one's making art that can say the message I'm trying to say with just pictures. And when I saw a few of yours, like I'm going to talk about one in a second. There's so many, but it's like nationalism is bad. And then the other guy says, we need to nationalize everything, where it's just like, that's it. And it says so much without saying anything. And sometimes even me, where people are like, you speak good, but even I can't find the words, or I'm like in a place where it's like, I'm always trying to figure out how to spin it to make it where it's digestible. And it's like, with only saying 5 words, that says everything you need to say right there. It's like the hypocrisy, you really catch it.
Thank you. Yeah, it's like a cheat code. Like memes themselves are sort of cheat codes. And the old cliche, the picture is worth 1,000 words. It's like now in the mass, morass of information, it's like being effective in messaging requires really concise eloquence, and it takes time to sometimes it doesn't take time, but it's like thinking and reducing. And that's why people love it and they hate it, because they hate complex issues being reduced. You know what I mean? They reject that it's that easy. Like, it's not that simple, JimBob. And I'm like, it's a cartoon, dude.
No, it's true. And I guess that is the thing that a lot of people miss. I know it is crazy times, but people are like, isn't it hard to do what you do? Like, even for me, aren't you getting a lot of backlash? To be honest, not really, a little bit, but I always kind of said similar stuff and no one cared about it until now. Part of it is because I got a lot better. I used to be way worse. Another part is actually people are hungry for it, not only with the Trump era of ending political correctness and the switch where it's just like people are so in need of social justice that they're becoming crazier than anyone I've ever met my entire lifetime on the other side. So everyone kind of feels it. Even my friends who are more liberal leaning, even they're like, dude, this is like the political correctness is crazy. So if you can break it down in a way that's not so divisive and also just like so obvious where you can't deny it, then it's like checkmate. They see it and they're like, want to get mad, but that's right. Yeah. Right.
And it's like, it is the approach, and people want to actually be liberated from it. Those are like the closet liberals who know all of this stuff is bullshit, but they're not really putting in the time to fight it, because it's like, whatever, I'm not going to start a scuffle. I need my job. I need this. I need that. But it really softens it for people, so they can be like, yeah, I like that. I like that that's being attacked, and I think there's more people than we realize who are on the center left, who really reject all of the PC stuff, the identity politics, and that's a part of it. Is like there's a weird balance between demonizing one's ideology or their practices, and also inviting them in their own critique of themselves. So it's like, I don't know the answer to that, but that's what I want to learn, is like, because I was a super left wing liberal in LA. So I have to, every time I remember that, and I'm like, how intoxicating it is to believe that with just the right people and the right person elected, then suddenly society is going to be utopian and beautiful, and it's just like, I remember the feeling of that, of like being overtaken with that feeling. It really is a chemical, I think. So, but bringing people into reality and letting people know that it's okay that it never gets figured out. Like that's what we're dealing with in life. So it's like, don't expect it all to get worked out.
Yeah, maybe that's why we're nicer, because we were liberal. So there's always that, oh, and there's quotes like that, motivational quotes that are like, you weren't always where you were, so be kind. But it is a balance of not being too mean, but also holding your ground. And I'm trying to figure that out now. But I say even the most liberal that like annoys the crap out of me, I don't specifically think they're an evil person. Although I would say now there's probably some sort of demonic force like in them because of their weakness. But I think it comes from fear, anger, hate, jealousy, envy, all these bad things like piled up, and they're just like, "Rah!" But like if you could peel those back, I don't think they're all really bad people. I think they're really misled, because I remember certain things that got me, even though I knew a lot. The liberal trap is so crazy, where it's so, a lot of people I feel like are enslaved in it, where I talk to people and they're like, yeah, I know that they hate me because of my race and it's not the right race now, but it's my fault. Like they're like captive, and you just want to help them. Maybe a meme or two can get them out of that, where they're like, yes, I agree with that, but like you said, I don't want to lose my job. I don't want to seem like I'm like someone's like, Anomaly, you seem really right wing now. And all I did was post about Jussie Smollett, and he's like, not that. I'm concerned about, and I'm like, dude, what? Like I'm trying to.
I mean, it's like Roseanne Barr said. I don't know if it was Fallon or someone was like, "What happened to you?" And she was like, "What happened to me? I stayed where I am. You guys went crazy to the left," and that's like really what happened to a lot of people, and that includes people who are still immersed in the coastal cities, who are kind of just like watching their back, being like, I better not say something moderate. You know what I mean?
It's true.
So it's funny. It's just I see it as like people want to be liberated. Like the people who sometimes occur as the enemy, they want to be crushed so they can be free again, so they can say what they want again, so they can, because they created a big room of eggshells, and everyone's kind of like figuring out how to get out of that room again. And it's not too late. The first thing is like, say what you believe, and just be willing to take whatever the reaction is, and then stop apologizing. Everyone stop apologizing. It's total nonsense.
I've always been, although I was off on a few things, and I'm still probably off on something as far as I'm going to go, but I was a truth seeker. I was never a party guy. I just leaned one way or the other based on what I knew. And honestly, policy and economics, I didn't understand until 2 years ago. I wasn't interested in it. I didn't even talk about it for the most part. But people say to me now, like, this seems right, where I'm looking for the truth, and I can't help. Like, I know people want me to pretend like, hey guys, it's like both sides, and it's some things they are. I'll call out conservatives. They definitely get mad. But honestly, the right wing just seems like they're right about almost everything now. Although they're wrong in a few things, it's just that the left has chosen like what I consider racism, sexism, and solely judging somebody by skin color. And that's just against everything I'm about. I know the difference between people and individuals, and they're all about the groupthink ideology. So just being center and looking for truth seems crazy far right, because they've, skewed the table so much. People are like, Anomaly, just pretend the ball's here. Right. That would mean I was a liar. Like, it might please you and I might seem nicer, but like, if I believe it, it's true. Whether it says white, black, like certain words they want you to say, like you said, I'm so over it that I'm getting more outwards, and I'm concerned about you. No, I'm just
No,
not giving another inch because
right.
you've taken 1 word, 2 words, 5 words, 100 words, 200 words. Now I can't even say a basic fact without somebody getting triggered. It's like that's gonna just motivate me to say more.
Yeah, and yeah, there's some rules that need to be broken constantly, but I think regular people who aren't, on a podcast or putting their personality like we are and their work out there to be criticized, just in everyday life, I think people need to just say what they think is true. Like that's the distinction, is that you don't have to be right to be honest, to be truth. Like you're saying what you think is true, and then someone can correct you or not. But like this like new protocol of like, if you don't know it's absolutely true, you shouldn't say it. Like that's irresponsible. It's like, no, that's how we communicate. We're all like flawed humans, and we need to say, I've been wrong. Some of my analogies are way off, but the thing is, once you seek out truth, in respect to your own principles and what you believe, and what you can practice on a daily level, is like all of a sudden there are people who will reject those things, and then people who will relate to those things. So for me, I started going like, well, I think I'm sort of like into classical liberalism, like the individual. And I started exploring that. I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm into that. And then as I started espousing some cartoons about those ideals, people would be like, you're alt-right. And then I'm like, wow, this is such a funny game. And then so the more rigid one becomes in their own principles, the more they're ridiculed. So it's safe to not have any. You know what I mean? But it's not worth it. It's not safe really, because then you just believe anything, or you say yes to anything. And I know what that's like too, like pleasing a bunch of people or saying yes to stuff. And it's just not worth it. Like for everybody, it's not just people who are in media, who have a voice, who are making themselves known. It's just daily people. You got to start saying what you believe. Like, it's okay. You're not going to starve. I promise you.
Thank you, Carol Ann, for the super chat. I see that. And you're totally right, JimBob, or Jim and Bob. Is it JimBob, one word?
JimBob. Yeah, one word.
JimBob? All right, my man. Because I was like, should I space it? But I noticed Trevor put it together. I think you're right with the principle things too. I noticed during the Bernie stuff when I was like, hey guys, shouldn't we be concerned about this? When I was more leaning to that way. And they acted like I was crazy. They were like, universal health care is not your number one priority with him. And I was like, no, I like the truth, knowledge, wisdom, like anti-establishment, anti-media. That's what I always liked. And they're like, they don't have principles. It's lit. And that's why they're wooed by big government there. Cause it's like, if you don't have common sense and basic wisdom, then you're a fool and you get fooled a lot. And I find that people are very foolish. I want to ask you a question, because I get a lot of heat from conservatives. I feel like 90% of the conservative crowd. And then I say that, and then they're like, it's not all conservatives. And I'm like, I know. I'm just, I don't mean to generalize.
You have to generalize to make some inquiries.
Yeah. And I also assume that conservatives can handle it more, but I guess they get upset because they're supporting me more. But I don't agree with what's going on with Ilhan Omar, and I'm not a fan of her. I think she's highly questionable. I think she should have a big eye on her, because I definitely don't trust her. However, I really believe in free speech, and I've seen Alex Jones get deplatformed, Benjamin get deplatformed, Roseanne basically get deplatformed and shunned, Gavin. I mean, Free Thought Project on the far left wing, or central, conspiracy, although on point a lot. So it's not funny anymore, and no one's really doing anything about it. They had a Google open hearing, and nobody said like anything that really mattered what Google's doing. They're rigging algorithms so mainstream media's at the top, among other things. No one talked about it. So right now, I'm not concerned with eye for an eye taking other people down, whether it's crazy people on the left or the right, but it just bothers me that the right wing is so foolish in that sense, and they get really annoyed, and they might still, it's okay, but they need to hear this. Like, there's so much stuff going on. I don't think Ilhan Omar, and let me know what you think. I don't think her saying certain things is the big scoop. And they're like, we got to get her off the Council of Foreign something because she said something about Israel. And I'm like, guys, we have in our government people who've killed a leader of Libya and there's slavery now. They've started wars on false evidence. There's so many liars and deceivers and people who have literally crushed millions of lives and affected global scales. No one's been held accountable. And you're going to sit here and tell me on Twitter, just because you don't like her, that Ilhan Omar questioning Israel is the biggest scoop ever. That's my, and they're like, no, trust me, it's bad. No, like George Bush, Obama, 7 countries that have no basis in reality, just bombing and drone strikes and agenda of pure madness and chaos that led to a refugee crisis. No, that's not the big scoop. It's like the right wing gets snowflakey. I mean, they're like, well, she said mean things about Israel, so that's not the worst thing.
Well, the right can definitely get snowflakey, and a lot of it's this like call and response thing where someone will do something on the left and then the hypocrisy will be called out, and then people will be like, well, then they did it, and but look at over here, you did it over here. And it's like the culture of that alone is basically saying, let's all make more rules for ourselves. Like, you know what I mean? It just doubles down on the rule making. And you know, everyone should be criticized. She should be criticized. Everyone, any elected official should be pretty much treated as our lowest form of employee. So, you know, I don't care if they think she should be out or not. Like, anyone can say whatever they want. It's just that the question is always like, are you expanding government power or not? Like, the reason I like culture is that it's voluntary and persuasive. When you get into politics, you can make fun of that stuff, but the question is always like, well, what are you suggesting we do? Are you like, once you say like, let's expand another arm of government that can axe someone or do something, you're just expanding the power of the government to be able to do it the next time for the person that you do like. So it's the same thing with the president. It's like people, I voted for Obama twice. Like, I needed to do that to to see my flaws. But people empower those who they believe in, and whether it's conscious or not, they expand the power of the government at the same time. But the problem is we limit our representatives and the president to, you know, 8 years fully. So you set up all of this power for them and it's awesome. And then the next person who you don't like takes office and has the same amount of power. So it's like,
absolutely.
So it's hard. It's a hard thing. Like, if we're staying on the surface of just like people getting, you know, filling their diapers over stuff, it's like, yeah, humans do that. It's not necessarily peculiar to one side, because it just depends on the issue, you know. But
for sure,
it's not something manageable. I just look at someone like her and I'm like, okay, you swore into Congress on the Quran. Some of your beliefs and stances are incompatible with your religion, but it's just like, where am I going to take that? It's like, you know, I can't manage it.
No, you're smart like that. You want to be effective. I try to do that a lot too. When people text fight me, I'm like, guys, it's not that I don't want to do this. It just doesn't make time management sense. I have a whole debate platform. I don't want to like spend time nitpicking in the comments. With Ilhan, I guess what really bothers me is on the left, and it is humanity. Like, you really get it from a psychological level. It's human nature. It's going to happen. Nobody's perfect, for sure. It's just like the left with Trump, they're more mad at his words than actions. Like, you can literally enslave hundreds of millions of people. This is an exaggeration. Let's say hundreds of thousands of people, and no one will care. But if you say a word that shithole, they're like, whoa, that crosses the line. And I'm like, guys, there's human beings getting enslaved.
Right.
And you're mad about the word shithole. And what happened in Haiti was actually 20 times crazier than that word, which has never been really explored or discovered. So it's like, that's your threshold. So same with the right wing. I don't think she's the number one. She's not I'm not going to vote for her, but they're like, are you defending her? Or I'm like, no, I'm saying we have people in our government, pretty much all of them, besides maybe Rand Paul, they're all lying. They are all doing some crazy stuff. They've all supported this system, and it's in many ways great. I don't want to be a total downer, but our foreign policy has been ridiculously questionable at bare minimum. And you're telling me just because you're a conservative and you like Trump and you don't like Ilhan, that you think the big scoop is getting her off the council for saying that? And she probably shouldn't be on the council anyway, but look where we're at. It's not just her. I think like you're thinking as far as how can we be effective? And I see the AOC, Ilhan Omar, it's like a month. I'm like, guys, you have Maxine Waters, who was voted one of the most corrupt politicians, in charge of the finances. They're putting like it's the whole from top to bottom. They're putting the worst people in all these positions. So if you really want to stop Ilhan Omar, you have to go 20 steps deeper. And people are like, but her words. And I'm like, guys, this is what the left does. And it is human nature. It's just, for me, I'm like, hey, and then everyone's like, whoa, like anomaly, don't say that. And I was like, dude,
you
guys, I talk crazy all the time.
No, you got to say what you believe or what you're thinking. And then like, that's the process. It's like, if you see something inconsistent, you got to say it and risk pissing off people that support you. But back to that issue, it's for me personally, it's like, if I believe in limiting government and reducing the size and power of it, I'm all for, like getting inadequate, people in government to see. Like, I like that AOC is in a position of power, because it just shows that like because you just suddenly get a badge and you're in the government, it doesn't make you like superhuman. Like the funny part about humanity is like people say like, we need government because humans are so flawed and they can't make their own decisions. And you're like, what is government made of? Just more people who are flawed, who aren't good at making decisions. So it's like,
absolutely.
So that's how I just see it. I'm just like, expose it more, like, my view isn't like, we need a better person in there. I'm just like, my view is we need to limit their seats and we need to limit the time people can be in government. The fact that, I mean, it's a free country. So I can't say make a rule that like someone like Bernie Sanders can't be a lifelong politician, but he's literally done that. He's been in politics as a career, like this whole time. Like, I feel like, when you join like a club, like it's like, anomaly, you're going to be the treasury for 2 months. And you're like, okay. And it's kind of like annoying or whatever, but you do the thing and then you're out. And it's like, that's called a public service. So if everyone's defense of government is that it's a public service, yet people can be in government and crony up and make money from being in government, doesn't make sense. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
If it was truly a public service, it would be much smaller and less people would be sort of drawn into it for their interests, their personal interests.
I like that you said you like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez being there, because I feel like the right wing especially doesn't understand her, just like the left wing doesn't understand Trump. They're two different people, but same philosophy behind it. Trump is not the problem. Trump is a symptom of the problem. And I would argue that he's actually doing a great job. You could say he's doing a terrible job, but either way, even though we disagree, he's not the problem. He got there because of the problem that was ignored. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, she's not the problem. So punching her just makes her stronger because she's there. How did she get elected? Because it's all made of people. Yeah. Well, what type of people? The most honorable, wise, like amazing people? I would argue not really. So that's why she's there. And she's thriving because the competition is so bad. So you keep punching her. It's like punching Trump. It doesn't actually help. And she's a product. David Icke said it really well recently, and I was listening to him. She's the first product of the education system and the culture. It's been cultural Marxizing, brainwashing people slowly, and like we kind of got it, and I was in that zone. And now the kids, they're pumping them with like even further left. So she's the first wave of, hey, like this is what you get when you push that out into society. And she's not the first. Hopefully it can be limited, but only can you stop something if you understand it. And once again, right wingers get mad at me for this, and they're like, "Anomaly, no, you don't get it." And I was like, "It's not that I don't want you to have fun and make jokes, and you don't have to like her. I'm not lobbying for you to vote for her. But if you don't understand the problem and you don't properly assess it, and you just feed it, you're going to blow her up like she's already become." And sometimes she makes really valid points. Just like Ilhan Omar. I don't like 95% of her agenda, or actually, I don't like any of her agenda. But sometimes she'll say something, and I'm like,
Yeah.
she's not wrong. And they're like, she's got to stop now, and we need to take her stuff away. And I'm like, wait, that's conservatives doing that to the left? No, Anomaly, you don't understand. She's hateful and bigoted. It's like, put up a mirror. And then it sounds exactly like what the left does. I'm not arguing for what she's saying or not, but eventually AOC is going to nail it. And I've watched a 5-minute speech where she was talking about corrupt politicians. She was right. Does that mean I buy into her agenda? No, but I don't want to censor her or feed her like a lot of other people are doing.
Well, there's like a couple things going on. Like populism is what got Trump elected, and then the response to it is populism on the left. So I don't think it's as big or as powerful. So that's occurring. And the other thing with that is like people, including myself, it's easy to get swept up in someone pointing out a valid problem. But what happens is if someone points out a valid problem in a really eloquent, powerful way, it's assumed that the solution is as valid that's being proposed. And like, you got to be able to separate the two. Like, you can argue all day about like, I was talking to someone online about like you can argue all day about climate change and pollution and all that stuff, but assuming that the government and a global welfare state and taxing every bit of energy out the ass is the solution just because you've identified a potential problem. Those two get conflated all the time. It's like they make it so you can't disagree. I'm really a critic of someone like Noam Chomsky, but he did point to one thing that I see now in government in a pattern over and over, which is like, when the government creates a language like a peace process, right? How can you disagree with peace process? You know what I mean? So we have a peace process over there in the Middle East, and someone goes like, well, I don't agree with that, the methodology and what you guys are doing. Oh, you're not about peace? You don't believe in peace? They do this over and over again with different policies. It's like climate change is saving the world. You don't guns. You don't care about dead kids. It's like this pattern is so clear to me that I almost no longer engage the same way because of it. It's just like I see it and I go, oh, they're doing that thing,
Absolutely. The politicians, especially the left wing, but politicians in general, they're master branders. They brand it women, kids in cages, women separated from children. Like, oh my goodness, you're a monster if you disagree with that. But it could be promoting, like, it is human trafficking, rape. Like, there's things that happen because of that. So it's actually one of the most evil things in the world wrapped in one of the most beautiful things in the world. It's a really sick agenda. And recently it was Barry Weiss. She was New York Times reporter. She was on Joe Rogan, and it was very unpopular, progressive. And she was talking about on The View, I just saw recently, she was like, guys, the left-wing anti-Semites are crazier than the right-wing anti-Semites because the right-wing ones are obvious. And she's like, the left-wing anti-Semites, they mix it in with social justice. And I was like, Barry, you're right. Yeah, absolutely. That's what they do. But she's only identifying it for anti-Jewish leftists. And I was like, that's your whole life. Like, that's literally who she is. She does it with everything. Racism, sexism, xenophobia, kids in cages. Her whole life is doing exactly that. But she only is like, whoa, the left is. I'm like, that's who they are. Yeah, I'm glad you identified it there for your people. But it's obnoxious to see that. And it's like, that's every article probably you've written in the last 5 years. So please don't do that, maybe, or try to not wrap such insane psycho things in this like little kitten thing where it's like, don't kill the kitten. That's my idea.
Right. Yeah, that's all tricky stuff. It's there's so many layers to it. Like, I try not to even get, like, if I start intellectualizing that stuff, I'll just eat my words, because it'll just be like I'm trying to find some answer to chaos. It's like I don't even, like, again, I don't know how to manage. I watched some of that episode and I just couldn't watch her for some reason. But yeah, I don't know. I just have like blinders on. Like I question the media and reporting so much now, and it's a valid thing. I find it funny that when someone says the media is the enemy of the people, suddenly that's a bad thing. But leading up to the election and before, it was always a left wing stance to be like, the media is dividing us. They're lying. This is not a good, a good thing. And the thing is, there's policy behind it. Like, people don't realize, like, this thing called the Smith-Mundt repeal in 2013. Like, in 1948, the Smith-Mundt Act, it prevented the U.S. government from disseminating propaganda to its own people, but permitted it externally to foreign countries. And it's like, whether that's good or bad, I don't know. It's like, whatever. I wasn't even born yet, but now with the repeal, it actually legalizes it in the U.S. So it's like, just that fact. Whenever I get into conversations about the media and stories, like, I already know I have to wait like 6 weeks before reacting to a story. I have to like wait. And even then, I'm lucky if the facts and the truth comes out to a low enough margin of error to even buy it. You know what I mean? Like, it's so much chaos, so much disinformation. Like, I don't even know what arms of the GOP or the DNC are connected directly to, talk show hosts or media. Like, I buy that that's a possibility, and it's not like they have these meetings. It's just people taking on political agendas and running with them, but they happen to be journalists or TV show hosts, and it exists on both sides. I think it's more concentrated on the left because they have a monopoly on art and so forth. But that policy alone, like, the fact that exists, I'm just like, I just don't even get too swept up with anything now that's in the news, because you have to really just go, well, no, you're never going to get to the bottom of it. You know what I mean?
Well, you nailed it in two aspects, I think. The first one is, you seem pretty peaceful, and it's my approach a lot. Sometimes I get really invested in it, but then I leave it alone, or I try to be effective. But it's literal chaos. Like, they're literally inverting reality. So the more you try to figure out why they're doing that, or the more you try to get into it, the more miserable you're going to be, because it's just straight inverted reality. And also, it was a left-wing talking point for sure. I mean, I wrote a song called Apocalypse in 2008, where I said, Time Warner, prepare to stop the prince. I'm convinced this is apocalypse. Talking about the media. I say it now. People say it's a right-wing talking point. You brought up Noam Chomsky. He's like one of the intellectual leaders of the left wing. His whole life, all he talked about was media manipulation and propaganda. And then Trump gets into office, and Noam Chomsky's like, he's an authoritarian. I'm like, bro, he's saying what you've said your whole life. And how could you not, if you're really Noam Chomsky, like Noam Chomsky is, and you know how bad media propaganda is, like you said, that whole act was reversed. So propaganda was basically legalized. You know that it's always been a little club where they're working. Of course, late night hosts are knee deep with politicians. I could even point to, it's not a conspiracy. There's, dots that I don't feel like connecting now, because I don't even want to put in the time or effort, but I know directly like who's working with who. But for some reason they just, I was just saying, if you're Noam Chomsky, how could you pretend like that's not a huge deal? Even like people, like, the media is a huge deal. It's social engineering, it's mind control. It alters society. Movies, television, it's how people act, what they want, what they buy. It's really a huge piece of the puzzle mentally. And if you don't control your mind, you're never going to control anything else. So for these leftist leaders, it's like you said, you don't want to get too wrapped up in it because it doesn't make sense, but it is a little disheartening where I'm like, I know you're good people. I know you're good guys, but like how many lies are you wrapped up in, and why is that a problem now when it's not only the reality, and it is, I think it is because it's leftist now. A lot of leftists can't handle it. I was left more like you, and I always thought Fox News was worse, but now it's like, oh, clearly every television station besides Fox News, they're all working together, basically all the same agenda. Pretty much the left, from progressive to liberal left, it's all identity politics, groupthink ideology. I can identify that and be like, you know what? I never liked Fox News growing up. I always disliked them and hated them, but this is just the way it happened. Oh, well, just like when I call out conservatives, it's just like, that's what it is. I didn't want it to be, but they don't want to admit that. They're like, no, it's still Fox. And you're like, it's really not.
No, I mean, the thing that I remember Jon Stewart was talking on Larry King, and he just went after CNN. And he said something just so honest that more people, you know, of his caliber, of his ideology should acknowledge, is that, like, you can watch Fox News, but they're openly biased. They're like, we lean this way. Like, they say this, you know what I mean? Like, they are hammering points that they know what their audience is, and they're not lying about. Like, whether they lie or misquote or whatever, that's a different conversation than whether they're on target with what they're saying. Like Jon Stewart said, yeah, but Fox knows what they're saying. They know what they believe. Like, you know, the other side, like, it's all chaos. It's all attacking someone else. That's the thing about principles, is that when you have principles as an individual, if someone doesn't know their own principles, they have to question yours because it's scary. That means you have like a footing. And if that's scary to someone, then they're going to go, like, they're going to try to chop it down, because it's like you have your feet in firm ground, and you know what you believe, and you don't care if you look like an ass believing it. And like, that's freedom. That's real. That's like truly freedom, is that you know what you believe. You know you're flawed, but because of that, you're fearless. Because how can you know, you can take criticism if you already know you're flawed. That's the genius of knowing you're flawed, is that you can't be, you're unmovable, because people who have this morality complex, and they're sanctimonious, and they point to all this stuff. It's like they don't realize they're also imperfect. If they just accepted that they were also imperfect, and not everyone knows what the fuck's going on, and that's okay, and it's fun figuring it out, it's like all of this stuff could be way more fun. You know, even the back and forth from left to right could be way more fun.
Absolutely. There's a lot of pride and ego, and also hurt and anger, and these things, when they get wrapped up, they form a ball that's hard to get through, where it's like pride, ego. I find like the right wing, albeit there's some things I disagree with, they're a little more straightforward, like you said, where the left wing, they wrap all of their flaws in like social justice, and it gets ugly. But there is something I want to say about Fox, and I don't even own cable television. My friend Brandon from Walkway, he's like, watch me on Mark Levin. I didn't even know what it was. I was like, what, Fox? I don't even have a TV. You got to find it online. But I've watched Fox a little bit recently. There's a difference between Fox and everything else. And I think a lot of left-wing people, even if they're progressive or whatever, or centrists who get mad at me, anomaly, tell it like it is. This is how it is. And tell me if, you know, you could have your own perspective. But I've watched Fox recently, and I've watched the other ones. There's a difference. First off, Fox is the only conservative-leaning one. All the other ones, One American News Network, I'm not going to count here because I'm talking about mainstream media. The top 100 channels, they're all leftists, all of them. Comedy Central, leftist, they're all going far left. ESPN even now, it's like leftist propaganda half the time. Not half, but you get it. You're not allowed to be conservative, only on Fox. Fox has Shep Smith, who's a raging liberal, who honestly, they have liberals on all the time. Tucker Carlson talks about aliens, gives Tulsi Gabbard a fair share. So I would say Tucker's the best on television. Even progressives kind of know that. Although he can be definitely right-wing and a little strange sometimes that I don't agree with, but I like Tucker. But they actually facilitate liberals on their network. I've watched it, and I almost thought it was too liberal for me, Fox News. So Fox will do that. No other television station there's no Shep Smith on CNN. There's no Shep Smith on NBC. Charles Barkley's the closest thing on ESPN because he just kind of doesn't give a fuck. And he's more left probably anyway, but maybe not. Maybe he gets it. But it's like that people are like, no, it's 50-50. No, it's like 95 to 5%. And in that 5%, they're giving up a lot of their platform. And in that 95%, they're not budging an inch. So if you want to say it's in the middle, or people that are liberal that say, oh, it's just like the same as Fox, they're worse. It's a lie. And it's like people want me to pretend like it's not this way, but it really is. There's no Shep Smiths on any liberal station. You're not allowed to exist if you're conservative. They're racist, sexist, and honestly, they're like on a path to go.
They picked a hill to die on, and they're panicking, and they're losing. They're losing. So the good news is that they're losing. Like, so when we attack the media and go, it's so left wing and, all this stuff, it's all true. And it needs to be capped with the reality that they're losing their strength. They're losing their stronghold in the market itself. So like all of this outrage and chaos, like that's their way of staying relevant. It's panicking and panicking and panicking. And while alternative news and people in general are seeking more nuanced, longer session conversations, they want to explore ideas. They want to have debates. Whereas this format of mainstream TV, it's all going away. I mean, it's like what do they call it? The death rattle. Like when someone dies, they let out like their last like very uncomfortable breath thing. That's what I see I think they're done basically. So
yeah,
and it's all splintering. It's not just ideological. It's that new technologies are going to enable humans to deliver smaller, more concise bits of information faster and relay them faster than a news network can aggregate them centrally. So decentralization of information, it's killing these people. Like they don't want that to happen. They're going to try to use any tactics. They're going to try to use legislation. They're going to try to create monopolies through government. That's kind of what we have to watch out for. It's not the imbalance. It's the government sneaking in and doing a loophole around into social media to try to control what they know is dominating the commodity of attention. Like our attention is worth $1, and so they're losing it all, and they're trying to figure out how to stay relevant. That's why all this outrage stuff. There's actually a term called availability entrepreneurs, and there's something called an availability cascade. So it's a term from finance to be able to I think foresee trends and to know how long a trend will stay so that people can invest in it confidently. So, but in the content world, an availability cascade, say like the Russia story, it's a story that you can convince a lot of people has like a potential to it or a truth to it, and it's a narrative and it has a shelf life. So like the wage gap, or when that faulty paper came out with 97 of all scientists agree, like that's a cascade that gets people like riled up, and then it gets in the social media, and then advertisers make a lot of money because the cascade itself is a time frame by which people argue about it online viciously, right? And then it restarts again, and they make a lot of money from that. But it's funny to watch it through that perspective because you can start to see like the lifelines of these things, like the Smollett thing. It goes like, blah, 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 and then goes, they make their money and they have to create another one. And it's all competing for our attention. But if we start valuing these kind of conversations more and people start watching these conversations more, it breaks down sort of the dopamine hits or whatever that we're getting from this like instant like blah, 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 pick a side. No,
absolutely. And you take the chaos and make it hilarious. Like, you take all that chaos, you put it into, and that's a real talent to take it, not only to draw it. I can't draw. I'm lefty. I'm awful. I don't know if all lefties are awful, but I'm just using that as an excuse and a victim card. But you take the chaos and you make it funny. Speaking of funny, I just read a comment. It's probably the creepiest comment I've ever seen, so I'm gonna read it aloud. It said, I'm boycotting Anomaly's live streams until he shows us his feet. We've been waiting long enough." So
There's a whole business in that too. You'd be surprised the money.
No, I know the feet thing. Yeah, oh man, that's funny. I want to talk real quick. Hold on. I want to stop laughing because I might take this clip and chop it up and make like a smaller Facebook clip out of it. So I got to get serious.
Okay, yeah. Put your serious face on.
I want to talk about the meme. I want to talk about the meme. Nationalism is bad. All right, I'm going to start it over because I do want to chop this clip up. People watching live, but you know, get it right. I want to talk about your meme. It says nationalism is bad. We need to hold on. I'll do it since you coughed. Now it's kind of just.
Oh, my bad.
It's all good. It just because the screen when it happens, it like switched over. So it doesn't matter, but I'm kind of enjoying like the awkwardness of it now. I'm gonna keep running it back. It's just like, you know, when a DJ does like beep, 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 they're like, let's listen to the first verse for the 10th time. And you're like, it wasn't that dope.
Take 3.
I want to talk about the meme. Nationalism is bad. We need to nationalize everything. It's one of my favorite memes I've seen recently because it really explains everything and why I used to support Bernie Sanders, but I really don't anymore. I thought he was a matrix breaker, media outside the establishment, but he really does want to nationalize everything. And Trump, I think Trump is nationalism with love. He loves this country. He loves laws, law and order. You don't have to agree with it, but that's his job as the president. If he's a president and he doesn't care about laws or law and order or his people, then he's not a good president. And the left has become nationalism with hate. So it's like their nationalism, but they hate everything. You have lawmakers who don't follow the law. They're like, we like illegals. We want to give illegals free healthcare. It sounds cute if you just listen to the mainstream media, but the truth is they're lawmakers who don't even follow the law. Why are they even there? They're super mad at our own people and they prioritize people who are literally, it's illegal in their name. Like that's their only job. It's big government. It's nationalization of healthcare. I didn't really understand when I was supporting Bernie that he is national. He's like, I hate national. What he really doesn't like is American values like freedom, liberty, like basic low taxes. Honestly, it helps you create a small business, thrive, not have to fork over 20, 30, 40, 50% of your money to the federal government. In California, highest taxes, most poverty. It's a pattern because rich people, elites, they don't have to stay. They can leave and someone's going to have to pay that money. It's always the working class. So it's actually a lie that Trump is the only nationalist. It's just like he's a nationalist in the sense he actually loves this country and prioritizes it or tries to prioritize it. And Bernie Sanders will nationalize almost everything. And Kamala Harris, they want to nationalize everything while inflicting like race-based, gender-based programs, which is inherently racist and sexist. So they do have the makings of an authoritarian leader. Censorship, like control of almost the entire mass media, control of all the tech companies, deplatforming, rigging algorithms, which in many ways, all of those combined is modern day exile and book burning, deplatforming, rigging algorithms. All you could find is hate pieces on people. You can't even find their own speaking. And then they want to nationally control everything with big government, high taxes, control of entire industries. It's such a recipe for disaster. And this meme really nails it.
Yeah, no, it is a disaster. You don't want the government to have a monopoly on anything. And so like that should be the first red flag. Like our government's corrupt, Let's give them the keys to every form and aspect of our life. That makes no sense to me. What I like about that meme is when I drew it is I knew the trigger is people are like, no, it's not the same. There's white nationalism. Like it's different, you know what I mean? Like they immediately go to like the identity politic card, which is like, we're not against nationalism, just white nationalism. And you're just like, well, everybody in the US is a color. Like, so are you saying that anyone, like there are people, there's probably 8,000 people who think that the nation should be all white. You know what I mean? Which is a ridiculous proposal. That would require force. That would require infringement of property and everything else. So that taking that as a serious argument is hilarious. But the reality is like anyone who lives in their country and you know, I don't know. I have to actually look up the wording, but like the difference between nationalism and patriotism, because both of them are being branded as terrible. And I'm sort of like going, wait a second, my grandfather moved here from Italy. This is a good place to be. I went through a whole phase of like just being coded to hate America because of the past or whatever. But I'm like, what does it look like to be a patriot? And can you be a leftist patriot? Can you be a centrist patriot? It's like, is patriot now an icky word? Like, are Italian nationals who are patriotic about their country there in Europe, is that icky? Is it icky for someone from India to be passionate about their nation, their country? I'm exploring this. I don't know the answer, but I'm like, I'm gonna like, what if there's nothing wrong with patriotism? Like, if you think there's a good route for your country, right? And you say, Bernie, these platforms are the best for the country, you're a patriot. You're not, I can disagree with the platform or what you think is the right answer to making a better country, but you're essentially admitting your own patriotism.
Well, you nailed it. The left wing is pretty much ruining it, and the right wing is being cucky, in my opinion, and just letting them do it and playing along, honestly, because you nailed it. First of all, the left wing now, and when I say this, I'm sure people get upset, but I'm saying this from a place of this used to be my thought process kind of for a long time. It's not from a place of hate. It's like concern, like wake up. The left wing, they see the American flag now, and it's like a symbol of hate. Like before, I would do it on 4th of July, but I'd also critique it. On the left, I'd critique like war and, you know, what we were doing. So even to the point where like right wingers would be really mad at me. But I never hated the American flag. But now the left wing, they see it and they're like, you must be right wing. And also there's a difference between, like you said, a white segregationalist, which is very, very rare. And it honestly will probably, I would say, grow if you continue far leftism. Far leftism breeds racism. You can't talk about stuff. So then people, if you could talk openly about race, religion, gender, and nobody got too triggered, no one would care. They get built up because you do all, like Alex Jones is like, they're going to deplatform me. And then you deplatform them, you kind of prove them right. So that crowd is not shrinking because of all this pressure. I feel like it's growing a little, but it's still an extremely small crowd. Right. Then you go to a nationalist. A nationalist is someone who loves the country. I would say if you're too patriotic or nationalistic, it's a bad thing. But if you care about yourself and your family and your country, it's not a bad thing. There's all types of nationalists. And this is where the GOP and Republicans really bother me. There's black nationalists that are proud on Instagram and Twitter. There's Spanish nationalists, American nationalists, and there's white nationalists. Some people just happen to be white. And even Republicans play along with it, where I'm not a nationalist. That's not my ideology, but I understand that there are good people of all race, religions, and genders. And they say, we have to condemn him because he's a white nationalist. Are you going to condemn the 20 black nationalists who follow me on Twitter? And like, it's all a trap, anti-white trap, where it's like, if you don't like nationalism, you got to be fair. But they've branded white nationalists to mean like white supremacist and white extremist segregationalist, and it's not the same thing. And also, there's other supremacists in the world. There's religious supremacists, there's Muslim supremacists, there's Jewish supremacists, there's liberal supremacists who truly believe that everybody else is like subhuman to them. Like you talk to certain liberals, not all of them, about people in middle America. They're not like, hey, some of those people need our help, or they live good lives there, or they work really hard, or like there's no nice spin to it. And there's obviously wealthy people there as well, but they're disgusting. They're poor. The only reason they voted for Trump is because they're uneducated. They are every bit as racist, sexist, and xenophobic, so much to the point where I could listen to the people that they demonize the most. They say, whether they're black or white, this is the most evil, racist, horrible. And I'll listen to them and I'll be like, dude, this person is way less racist than you are. Like so much so that it's frightening to know how racist that you are. And then they'll be like, well, he said that he's less. Yeah, I'm not saying it because I'm the number one fan of that person. I'm saying it because you've literally stooped so low that you frighten me more than the most extreme people on the left and the right. That's why I defend them, because usually it is the revolutionaries who get targeted first because people don't want to hear it. So it's like, you might think they're extreme or crazy. We need to shut down Farrakhan. We need to shut down Ilhan. I'm not saying that they're number ones, but it's like, let's not shut their voices down. Let's just have a conversation with them present and win with a valid argument without doing that.
True. Yeah. I mean, I think that a culture that protects individual liberty, free speech, right to own a gun, is supreme to other cultures. I'm a cultural supremacist.
Yeah, taken out of context, or the fact that your skin color is a certain way, they could literally ruin your life. And what sucks, what I really want to challenge conservatives on, and I think a lot of people agree with me, but some get upset on Twitter. I think because it's text based and you can't hear my tone and fluidity, so it's like, oh my God, he's mad at us. But when they do that, conservatives do the same thing. They'll be like, oh, he's a white nationalist and we condemn him. It's like, really? And then the left is like, maybe we'll resuscitate the baby, kill him. He's got KKK blackface pictures. His wife is talking about picking cotton 20 times as crazy, and they don't even throw their own people under the bus. They're like, no. What he meant was you can murder and you can abort a baby after birth. It's afterbirth abortion. It's what Casey Anthony did. She just waited a long time.
We're gonna keep him comfortable, and then we're gonna just kindly crush his skull. Then we're gonna sell it.
Oh, it's disgusting. It's seriously sickening.
It's almost like SNL. Like, I have to deflect with humor because it's just the characters that come out of the woods it's just hilarious to me.
You're good at that. And I always say, like, either you're perpetually mad all the time and upset, or you just laugh at it. And that's what you've been able to do, is simplify it. Like you said, put your blinders on and just make it funny, or else it's like, what can you do? You just have to create, and also notice the difference between online and in person. Like, I really am starting to value the physical space, community, talking to people you don't agree with in person. It's different. It's a different world. This kind of format helps too, because you do a back and forth, and there's a lot more space. There's there's humanity, there's mistakes, there's grammatical problems, like all this. It shows people you're human, and we don't all know what the hell's going on. Like, we haven't figured out. We're not going to figure out the solution to anything anytime soon. Sounds nihilistic, but it's actually freeing to me to be like, okay, this is human. Like, this is what's happening right now. We're all just like in this flurry. But when you go to the store and you do your daily stuff, the online world is not applicable in the same way. And I think reminding people of that. That's why I made a book. It's not just that things got censored and stuff, and I can't trust the media or the social media to get my work out. I have to really start thinking, okay, when I get banned, what am I going to do? Am I going to do street art? Am I going to do books? What am I going to do? So that's a legitimate concern. But I also value the physical. Like, I think there's going to be, even as immersive technologies bring us further into a virtual setting with all this information and fake worlds that are awesome, I think the value of the physical space is going to also increase along with that. So I'm kind of looking at that and preparing for it in a fun way, and that's why I made the book. I want my memes to be physically in someone's hand, and you can't take that away. You can't censor it. You can try to burn it, but I mean, that's the real censorship. When people start hurting physical property, that's kind of the real barometer for censorship, in my opinion. Yeah, for sure. And they've started doing that with like statues tearing down. So they're kind of getting 1984-esque there, changing histories, tearing statues down. But if you guys haven't seen JimBob's work, follow him on Instagram, made by JimBob. And you probably have once you see him, because they're really funny. they're really accurate. And check out his new book as well. I like what you were saying, because in person, that's why I did this Make America debate again, because people love text-based arguing with me, but it's not fun. I don't even like Twitter, although I use it nonstop. It's terrible. But it gets misconstrued where people are like, oh, I understand what Anomaly's saying, but like one or two things, oh my God, he seems big. He likes bigots. Like, no. I'm just saying that's not what I feel in this particular topic. But when you talk to people in person, usually you can find common ground. Text-based stuff has been great and very useful for sure. I don't want to knock it and be like totally ungrateful. It's amazing. But we have lost our like flow of it, because text-based has no emotion, no pauses, no back and forth, there's no energy whatsoever. It's not a real conversation. This is way closer. It's almost identical, not quite, because there's still like the in the room, but it's pretty dang good. That's why I made the podcast. And that's what people don't do anymore. So text-based and also media, when you talk to the opposing person in person or face-to-face, it's harder to get crazy. But you listen to Rachel Maddow, or for that example, like Judge Janine or something, while I find her a little more tolerable, it's easy to, you're hyped up. Even me, honestly, on some days, it's like certain ways I probably wouldn't just scream it in public. But it's like, you wouldn't do that. And then when you do, it makes it better. So we have too much media, too much screens, all of us, and also too much text-based stuff. But that's why me and JimBob and hopefully this talk inspired you guys to create something. Because if you create something like a JimBob meme, you're adding to this culture that we're in and we're stuck in, but you're making it a little bit better and more fun. And that's what I try to do as well. You're still listening to news analysis. You're getting some energy. You're getting some emotions. But at the same time, I almost always try to leave on a good note. I try to say all the amazing things and talk about what we can do. And almost no one does that. So the way in times of chaos, like JimBob has said many times, the best thing to do is hold your ground in truth and love and wisdom, whatever it is, and calmness. And people will cling to you, because it's like you're like the last Mohicans, whatever that means.
Yeah, and just like all the stuff that we think is wrong with society, it's like that changing isn't what gives us like our value. Like what we create, our relationships, like what we accomplish, that's like the value. So it's important to like donate a lot of time to that, as much time. I'm lucky because what I'm creating is also a critique of what I don't like. So that's unique. And I'm lucky to be able to be like, oh, I'm making a book that makes fun of all the shit I don't like. And that's the value I'm creating. But it's not just staying on the threads and typing and stuff. Like, get into the real world and create stuff, because that's where the value is. And that's where your message is actually going to maintain itself. So it disappears online, So, that's my message. Can I plug the book?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So it's Savage Memes, Volume 1. I'll probably do a version of these. You can get it at madebyjimbob.com. And you can, for free shipping, you can type the word liberty, and that's free shipping. So it's 100 pages. It's a hardcover. It's really nice. It's funny, and nobody's going to be able to take this away from you. Whereas if you post some of my stuff on Facebook or Instagram, it'll get deleted. So there are some things that haven't been published online in this book, and then there are several things that have been taken down from Zuckmaster and the people.
Yeah, so. And we'll make sure our AI bots blur that out, so when it airs, that no one can understand and ever knows what JimBob's trying to sell.
Yeah. They wouldn't let me make a Facebook ad. They said, you're unauthorized to make an ad pertaining to issues of national importance. So they knew that I'm unqualified to comment on national importance.
Yeah, well, only the very approved people such as CNN and Washington Post have the authority to tell you the truth about culture, and your hilarious and honest memes are a threat to AI democracy.
AI democracy. That's right. I think that's where it's going, unfortunately.
Any last words for the people, and then we'll wrap it up, because I wanna take some clips of this, put it on Facebook, and when
Cool.
they're over 2 hours,
Yeah.
sometimes,
Yeah.
man, it gets tough. Like it's hard to convert it.
No, just thanks for listening. Check out my page, buy the book. Keep supporting creative people who are, you know, like when you're in the majority, it's time to rethink your stance, you know. So like prop up creative people who are the counter to the super leftism that we're seeing, because they do not have a monopoly on art. It's just that there's less people creating it out of fear, and we need more people creating it. So if you think you're a creator and you're afraid to create something because of what people will say, because of the message, just do it anyway.
Absolutely. And if you do it right, that's why I always talk about self-accountability and self-responsibility,
Right.
not in a douchey way, like,
Right.
oh, check yourself before you wreck yourself, dog. Where like I'm not saying I'm perfect, but I know for me, what helped is when I stopped looking all over the place and I looked inside, and now I realize certain elements of what I was doing were great for sure, but I did kind of suck at a lot of things. I didn't put the pieces together. And when I started doing it myself, I didn't need handouts. That's why I became further from the right. I used to be like, that blog needs to, and I used to be mad at people that I was the worst type of
That
rapper.
plot needs to be seen.
The worst type of rapper. I'm like, all that people are like, dude, you got to get, I don't want to be around rappers anymore. They act like I used to act, where it's like, dude, he's got to post me, but he could post you. It's not going to make you famous if it's not good enough. But if it's great enough, people will see it and naturally spread it, especially if it's about the culture right now, like a JimBob meme that's on point. Like he doesn't even ask. I'm just like, share it. Some have gotten like, God, probably over 100,000 shares on my Facebook page. Like some of the big ones. Yeah. I did one. It had like 2,000, 3,000 within an hour or two. I was like, whoa, other ones don't pop off that much. I don't remember the one. It just went crazy. So don't use excuses. Don't hate too much. Of course you can dislike what the other side is doing and understand. But if you really hone in on your craft, stop making excuses, stop being ungrateful and hateful, and really hone at what you're doing and make something of value. Watch how fast it'll spread. Maybe I'll even help spread it, because we need people. And JimBob, I think maybe Ben Garrison's the one of the other comics who's like counterculture. But even JimBob's his way is just like, it's a meme in itself. Like he's made it, and that's the, whether it's art, music, culture, podcasting, there's a space for you if you bring the bacon or the sauce and the bacon and make a bacon sauce dish.
Bring it, people.
All right. Thank you for joining. Any last quick word?
No, thanks for having me. It was a great conversation.
No problem. God bless you guys. God bless your family. God bless America. God bless the world. And God bless like the 20 atheist people that are like, anomaly, I don't believe in God. God bless you too. All right. We out.